I loved her with all my heart, but seeing her still hold on to a hoodie from her past relationship made me question my place in her life and confront fears I never expected. I never thought a piece of clothing could feel like a punch to the chest. Yet here I was, 23, staring at her hoodie on the floor, heart sinking with every inch of fabric I touched. My girlfriend, Sarah, 28, had been my world for 2 years, confident, smart, the kind of woman who makes you feel like you've won a lottery you didn't even know existed. And now, this hoodie.it smelled faintly of her shampoo, a mix of lavender and something warm I couldn't name. I picked it up, feeling the soft cotton between my fingers, and that's when I saw it. A tiny stitched monogram, barely noticeable at first, but unmistakable, his initials. My stomach twisted. His hoodie, the first thought that hit me was disbelief. Maybe I was imagining things. No, I told myself, it's right here. And suddenly, all those nights cuddling, all those quiet mornings sipping coffee in our tiny apartment, felt fragile that I tried to shake it off. It's just a hoodie, I whispered to myself, but even my voice sounded hollow. I remembered how she laughed the first time I wore her scarf, teasing me that I looked ridiculous. She never mentioned him in passing. Never. And yet, somehow, this piece of fabric carried his memory like a ghost between us. Later, I caught myself watching her from the couch as she moved around the kitchen, flipping pancakes like she'd done 1,000 times before. Her hair caught the morning light perfectly, and for a split second, I almost convinced myself that nothing had changed. Almost. But every time she reached for that hoodie when we watched movies or when she shivered under the evening air, my chest clenched. It wasn't hers, and yet she treated it like it was. And the thought that she might still cling to him in ways I couldn't even see made my pulse race with a strange mix of fear and anger that I knew I had to say something eventually, but I didn't want to start a fight, especially not over a hoodie. Still, lying awake that night, I couldn't stop thinking, am I enough? Can I ever be enough for her when a part of her heart still belongs to him? And in the dark, as I traced the faint scent of lavender lingering in the living room, I realized something terrifying. The battle wasn't just with the past. It was with my own insecurities, my own doubts, and the fragile threads of trust that had held us together for the past 2 years. Wait. I almost forgot. When she asked why I looked so quiet at dinner, I just shrugged, forcing a smile. Nothing, I said, but the hoodie had already planted a seed of tension I couldn't undo. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the hoodie. It lay folded neatly on the chair, innocuous in its black cotton simplicity, but in my mind, it was a monument to a past I wasn't supposed to see. I tried to focus on other things: coffee, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the chirping of birds outside, but every sound seemed to echo that monogram stitched inside. Are you okay? Sarah asked, peeking around the kitchen counter. Her hair was still damp from the shower, and her eyes, usually so warm, held a curious concern. I felt my throat tighten. Yeah, just tired, I muttered, avoiding her gaze. I wanted to ask. I wanted to scream, why are you wearing his hoodie? But instead, I tried to reason. Maybe it really was just comfortable. Maybe I was reading too much into a piece of fabric. My own mind felt like a battlefield. Love versus suspicion, trust versus jealousy. Sarah noticed my silence and moved closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. You've been quiet all morning. Did I do something? Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. I swallowed hard. I wanted to tell her everything. The panic, the fear, the ache in my chest, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I tried to smile. No, nothing. Really. But I could see the confusion flicker across her face, and I hated myself for lying. The hoodie wasn't just fabric. It was history she hadn't fully let go of, a memory I wasn't allowed to erase, and a symbol of my own insecurity that I went about the day pretending everything was fine, but every time she laughed or reached for that hoodie draped over the chair, I felt a tightening in my chest. And the worst part? I loved her too much to walk away. I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe the just comfortable excuse. But my heart knew otherwise. By the evening, I decided I had to confront it, but carefully. Not to start a fight, not to accuse, just to understand. If I couldn't understand this part of her, how could I ever feel fully safe in this relationship? And as she curled up on the couch later, hoodie pulled around her shoulders, I felt a flicker of dread. This wasn't just a piece of clothing anymore. It was a test of love, trust, and whether I could survive the shadows of her past. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The hoodie lay on the chair like a silent judge, and my mind replayed every laugh, every touch, every time she'd draped it over herself. I kept imagining him, her ex, wearing it, smelling like her, laughing with her in ways I could only guess. Finally, I blurted it out. "Sarah, the hoodie. Why do you still wear it?" My voice was tense, shaky, even though I tried to make it sound casual. She froze for a second, her eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, that? It's just comfortable," she said quickly, fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. "I didn't mean anything by it, I promise." I didn't even realize it still had his initials. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. But a part of me recoiled, whispering that comfortable was a convenient excuse, an invisible wall keeping me from seeing her past. "You really mean it?" I asked, heart hammering. She reached for my hand, warm and familiar. "I love you, not him. I didn't keep it for him. It's just memories. It reminds me of a time when I felt safe, I guess. But it's not about him anymore." Her words should have calmed me. I should have melted into relief. Instead, I felt a knot in my stomach, a mix of anger, fear, and longing. Could I ever fully trust her again? Could I ever stop seeing him in everything that once belonged to him? I nodded, forced a smile, and hugged her tightly. But inside, I promised myself I'd watch every move she made, every little attachment, every sign that she might still cling to something or someone else. And though I whispered, "I love you too," part of me was already preparing for the battle ahead, with her past, with my insecurities, and with the hoodie that had become a symbol I couldn't yet conquer. The next morning, I woke up to the faint smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Sarah was humming softly as she prepared breakfast, the sunlight catching in her hair, and for a fleeting moment, everything felt normal. I sat on the edge of the bed, hoodie still in the corner of my eye, and tried to breathe. But the monogram, the initials stitched carefully into the fabric, haunted me. Every thread seemed to whisper his name, every fiber a reminder of a past. I wasn't part of that. I watched her flip pancakes with that familiar rhythm, one hand steady, the other occasionally brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. She moved with a grace I admired, a casual confidence that made me love her even more, but also made me question myself. Was I just a temporary part of her life? Someone filling a space that had already been taken long before me. "Here," I made. "Your favorite blueberry pancakes," she said, setting the plate in front of me with a smile that should have warmed my chest. But I could barely eat. My appetite was swallowed by doubt. Every bite felt like chewing on my insecurities, every sip of coffee bitter with questions that I wanted to ask her again about the hoodie. I needed to ask, to hear it from her, to make her say that it was mine now, that her memories with him were just memories and nothing more. But how could I? How could I risk sounding like a jealous, insecure fool in front of someone I adored? She had always admired my calm and collected demeanor, and I didn't want to shatter that image. Instead, I sat silently, forcing a conversation about mundane things. Work, weekend plans, the neighbor's noisy dog. All the while, my mind spun. Webs of what-ifs. What if she still thought about him when she wore that hoodie? What if every laugh, every touch, every quiet moment between us carried echoes of their past? I caught myself noticing other little things, tiny habits that never mattered before. The way she sometimes paused mid-sentence, staring at nothing. The way her eyes lingered on her phone, even when no messages came. The way she sometimes smiled, faintly, almost wistfully, when she walked past that corner where the hoodie hung. I loved her. God, I loved her so much that I wanted to forgive, to forget, to pretend it wasn't there. But the hoodie wasn't just a piece of clothing. It was a symbol of everything I feared losing. And as I got up and poured myself another cup of coffee, I realized that love alone might not be enough this time. Not when the past was still breathing in the room with us. She looked up at me, eyes soft. "Hey, are you okay?" Her voice broke through the haze of my thoughts. And for a moment, I almost smiled. Almost. But I only nodded. "Yeah, just tired," I muttered again, knowing she probably suspected more than I was letting on. And as she returned to humming. While washing the dishes, I touched the hoodie without thinking, running my fingers over the stitched initials. The soft cotton felt harmless under my skin, but in my mind, it screamed. The battle wasn't over, It had only just begun, and I didn't know if love alone could win it. That afternoon, I decided to do some laundry, trying to keep my hands busy so my thoughts wouldn't spiral completely out of control. I carried the basket into the bedroom and noticed the hoodie again, draped over the chair, just like yesterday. She hadn't moved it, not even once. It looked harmless, like it had always belonged to her. But every fold, every crease reminded me that it didn't. I folded her clothes mechanically, trying to focus on patterns, textures, colors, anything to distract myself. But I couldn't stop thinking about her past. What did it mean that she still held on to something so intimately tied to him? Was it just comfort, like she claimed, or a way of holding a part of him close, without even realizing it? My chest tightened when she came into the room to grab a sweater. I caught her glance at me, her eyes flickering with a mix of affection and curiosity. "You've been quiet all day," she said. "Is everything okay?" I forced a smile, but my stomach churned. "Yeah, just thinking," I said, and she nodded, seemingly satisfied with the vague answer, and left the room humming. I wanted to shout, to ask her again why she clung to the hoodie, why a simple piece of clothing could feel like a wedge between us. But I stayed silent. I couldn't risk pushing her away with my fears that I barely understood myself. And yet, every glance, every movement, every soft brush of her hand against the hoodie made my mind spin with questions I couldn't voice. Later, she curled up on the couch with it around her shoulders, scrolling on her phone. I watched from the kitchen, pretending to tidy dishes, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. She laughed softly at something on the screen, a smile so genuine it almost broke my heart. Almost, because the hoodie hugged her like a memory I wasn't allowed to share. That night, I lay awake next to her, the soft hum of the city outside our window barely noticeable over the pounding of my heart. I traced the hoodie with my fingertips, wishing it would tell me what I needed to know. Did she still think of him when she wore it? Did she realize how much it hurt me? Or was I just reading too much into a piece of fabric? Oh wait, I realized I was holding my breath. I exhaled slowly, trying to calm the storm inside me, but it was no use. The hoodie wasn't just fabric. It was a barrier, a ghost, a mirror reflecting all the insecurities I had about our love. And as I finally closed my eyes, I knew something had to give, or the weight of it would crush me entirely. The next morning, Sarah sat me down at the kitchen table, her eyes serious but soft. "I know the hoodie bothers you," she said, stirring her coffee slowly. "I didn't realize it would. I don't know, bring up these feelings." Her hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the mug. I watched her, heart pounding, unsure if I was ready to hear the truth. "I wore it because it reminds me of stability," she continued. "Not him. Just a time when life felt simple, safe. But that's over now. I'm here, with you." Her voice was steady, but I could see the vulnerability beneath it, and it only made me feel worse. Guilty for even letting the hoodie loom so large in my mind that I wanted to nod, to smile, to believe her entirely. But every word she spoke collided with the images I couldn't escape, her laughing at things I didn't know about, sharing warmth and closeness with someone else before me. My chest tightened, throat dry. "I know. It's hard," I admitted, finally letting some of the fear escape. She reached for my hand again. "I promise you, nothing with him matters now. You're the one I want. You're the only one I choose to share my life with." Her thumb traced circles over the back of my hand, and I felt a flicker of calm, but it was fleeting. I wanted to believe her fully, yet a tiny voice inside whispered that there were corners of her heart I'd never see, memories I'd never know. Later, as she left the room to answer a phone call, I sat there, staring at the hoodie. It seemed smaller somehow, harmless almost, but the weight of the past didn't disappear. It was the invisible presence of someone else, a phantom I couldn't chase away. And as I traced the soft fabric with my fingers again, I realized I was falling in love with her more deeply, but also more painfully than ever before. I hated that I couldn't simply trust. I hated that a piece of clothing had the power to make me feel so vulnerable. But most of all, I hated that I was learning the truth about the past, and that it wasn't something she could simply erase for me. Love was supposed to feel like safety, but right now, it felt like walking on glass, each step jagged, fragile, and uncertain. Oh wait. I caught myself imagining him, and it twisted my gut. I shoved the thought away, forcing myself to look at her photos on my phone instead. Her smiles, our memories together, trying to anchor myself. But even as I did, the hoodie lay in the corner, silent and knowing. That evening, tension hung in the apartment like thick smoke. Sarah was cooking dinner, humming softly, and I was on the couch pretending to scroll through my phone, though my mind was spinning. I couldn't stop thinking about the hoodie, about the past, about everything she had said earlier. "Are you even listening to me?" she asked suddenly, snapping me out of my thoughts. She held a wooden spoon midair, eyes flashing. "You've been distant all day." "I am listening," I said, voice tighter than I intended. "But it's hard. That hoodie, and everything it represents." I trailed off, staring at the fabric draped over the chair. Sarah froze, then sighed deeply. "Oh, so it's still about him." Her voice was calm, but edged with hurt. "You know I've told you. He doesn't matter. That's in the past. It's me you're with now." "I know," I said, though my words felt hollow. "I know, but I can't help imagining things that happened before me. I can't stop thinking that some part of you is still tied to him." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "I can't erase the past, you know. I'm with you. I love you. But if you can't trust me, if you can't even believe me when I say it's over, what does that make us?" My chest tightened. Her voice was calm but sharp, cutting through the fragile bubble of security I had tried to cling to. I opened my mouth, but no words came. The air between us felt electric, heavy with all the unsaid things, the fears, the doubts. Finally, she put down the spoon and faced me fully. "I can't live like this, with your suspicions hanging over me. You need to either trust me or stop pretending everything is okay." I swallowed, heart hammering. I wanted to throw myself at her, to beg for understanding, to explain that it wasn't her, it was me and my fear of losing her to the ghost of her past. But the words tangled in my throat that we sat in silence, the smell of cooking mingling with the tension, the hoodie looming in the corner like a silent witness. And in that silence, I realized the battle wasn't over the past. It was over us, our trust, our love, and whether two people could survive the shadows that came with it. Later that night, after dinner, the apartment was quiet. Sarah curled up on the couch with a blanket, trying to watch a show, while I sat across from her, arms folded, wrestling with my thoughts. The hoodie lay untouched in the corner, innocuous yet omnipresent, like a shadow I couldn't shake. "I hate that I make you feel like this," she said softly, not looking at me directly. Her voice carried regret, and I could hear the tremor beneath her calm exterior. "I never meant for something so small to hurt you, but I see now that it does." I shifted uncomfortably. "It's not just the hoodie," I admitted, my voice low. "It's everything it represents. Your past, the things I can't see, the memories you've lived, the intimacy, things you shared with him that you can't share with me." She finally looked at me, eyes gentle but sad. "I know it's scary, and I understand why you feel that way, but I can't unlive my past. I can only choose to be here, with you, every day, trying to show you that none of it matters now." Her words should have eased the tension, but instead, they brought a fresh wave of anxiety. The truth was, I could see it in her eyes. She wanted me to trust her, but part of her also seemed to hope I wouldn't pry too deeply. That tension, that silent agreement to protect each other's pain, made my chest ache that I got up and poured us both a glass of water, trying to appear calm. "I want to believe you," I said. "I really do. But sometimes, I feel like I'm losing pieces of you I can never have, and it terrifies me." She reached for my hand, intertwining her fingers with mine. "You won't lose me," she whispered. "I'm right here. I want us to move forward, together. You just have to let go of the fear, even if it's hard." I nodded, squeezing her hand, but inside, the storm wasn't gone. Every soft smile, every tender gesture, every laugh still carried the weight of memories I could never touch, and the hoodie remained a symbol of the fragile line between trust and doubt that I wanted to hold on to her, to let the moment wash over me. But I knew the battle wasn't over. Love, I realized, wasn't just about being together. It was about facing the invisible ghosts of the past every single day. The next few days felt like walking on glass. Every small gesture, every glance, every laugh seemed loaded with hidden meaning. I caught myself noticing how she smiled at certain messages, how she lingered on her phone longer than usual, and my mind raced with suspicions I didn't want to have. Point one evening, She mentioned a colleague from work who had helped her with a project. He's really funny, she said casually, laughing. But I could feel the knot tighten in my stomach. Funny? Really? My fingers fidgeted with the edge of the blanket. My voice caught in my throat. Just funny, I asked, trying to sound casual. Yeah, he's just funny. That's all, she replied, sensing my tension. She tilted her head, concern creeping into her expression. Are you okay? I swallowed, forcing a calm tone. Yeah, I'm fine. I don't. No, I get nervous sometimes. I didn't tell her it wasn't him making me nervous. It was every reminder that there were parts of her life I could never fully access. Memories, emotions, past intimacy. They weren't things I could compete with. She reached for my hand, her touch warm and grounding. You don't have to compete, she whispered. There's no comparison. I love you. You're the one I choose. I wanted to believe her. I desperately wanted to believe her. But inside, the storm raged. Every memory she carried, every past attachment, even harmless, felt like a silent threat, a shadow creeping over the love I was trying to nurture. I realized that love wasn't just about moments of joy. It was about facing insecurities, confronting fears, and navigating the invisible fractures between trust and doubt. And as she leaned her head on my shoulder, I let her, though my heart pounded and my mind screamed with questions. The hoodie sat in the corner, quiet, innocuous, yet a constant reminder that the past was never far, and our fragile bubble of trust could shatter at any moment. That night, the tension finally exploded. We were in the living room, the soft hum of the city outside failing to drown out the storm inside me. She was scrolling through her phone again, laughing at something I couldn't see, and the hoodie hung in the corner, silent, mocking. Are you seriously laughing at this? I blurted out before I could stop myself. My voice cracked, betraying the anxiety I had been holding back for days. She looked up, startled. What? It's just a joke from work, she said cautiously, sensing my rising frustration. I didn't mean anything by it. It doesn't matter. I snapped, standing abruptly. It's not the joke, it's everything. The hoodie, your past, the way I feel like I'm competing with memories I'll never know about. Her eyes widened, hurt and confusion mixing in her gaze. That's not fair, she whispered. I've told you a million times, you're the one I love. The past doesn't matter. I'm here, with you. How can you even think I'd let it affect us? I know you're trying, I admitted, my voice trembling. But it's not just about trying. It's about everything I don't see, everything. You've lived before me, and I can't stop thinking that I'm not enough, that I'll never measure up to what's already happened. She stood, her hands shaking slightly. You're not measuring up to him. You're measuring up to me. I love you. I don't want the past to matter, and I thought you felt the same. The room fell silent for a long, unbearable moment. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, mine blurred with my own. The weight of unspoken fears, the shadows of memory, the hoodie quietly in the corner, all of it pressed down on us like a storm threatening to tear us apart. Finally, she exhaled sharply. I can't do this like this, she said. Not tonight. Without another word, she picked up her blanket and left the room, leaving me sitting there, chest tight, heart racing, and the hoodie staring at me like a silent witness to our unraveling. The apartment felt unbearably heavy after the argument. Every corner seemed to echo the tension, every shadow stretching longer than it should. I sat on the couch, staring at the hoodie in the corner. Its folds looked innocent enough, but to me, it was a monument to everything I could never touch. Memories, emotions, moments from a past that she carried quietly, almost reverently. My chest tightened with a mix of guilt, frustration, and heartbreak. Sarah returned slowly, her steps hesitant. Her eyes were red, her cheeks streaked with tears, but there was a firmness in her expression that I hadn't seen before. She sat across from me, the silence between us thick and suffocating. I can't do this anymore, she whispered, her voice trembling yet resolute. I've tried to reassure you, to show you that I'm here, that the past doesn't matter, but your fear and jealousy, it's too much. It's draining me. I can't be happy if you're haunted by every little thing, by every memory I have. I swallowed hard, feeling my own walls crumble. I just wanted to trust you, I admitted, voice cracking. I wanted to believe you, to be enough. But everything, the hoodie, the subtle reminders, The way your face changes when you speak of certain things reminds me that there are parts of you I can never reach, and I can't compete with memories I'll never see. She shook her head gently, a faint shiver running through her frame. We love each other, maybe, but we keep hurting ourselves like this. Every day it feels like we're walking on glass. We need to be apart. I think, maybe forever. I didn't argue. There were no words that could mend the fracture we had created. The hoodie lay in the corner, silent yet impossibly loud in its symbolism, a small piece of fabric that had become a monument to the divide between us. And as I watched her walk toward the bedroom, gathering her things in quiet resignation, I realized that love wasn't always enough. Sometimes, even the deepest feelings couldn't bridge the invisible chasm carved by memory, fear, and the past. That I stayed on the couch long after she left the room, my hands clenching into fists as a storm of emotions tore through me. Anger, sadness, helplessness, and a haunting sense of inevitability washed over me. The room was empty, but the weight of what was lost pressed down like a tangible thing. That hoodie, once a trivial object, was now a symbol of the point where our love had cracked, where trust faltered, and where the reality of who we were clashed with who we wanted to be. The next morning, the apartment felt impossibly empty. The sunlight slanted through the blinds, but it did little to warm the cold weight pressing on my chest. Sarah was packing her things quietly, her movements deliberate, as if trying to preserve some dignity amidst the wreckage of our love. That I stayed on the couch, unable to move, my eyes fixated on the empty corner where the hoodie had once hung. It had become more than fabric. It was a symbol of all the unspoken memories, the lingering presence of a past neither of us could fully escape. Every laugh, every gentle word from her now felt intertwined with that object, reminding me of the invisible walls I could never breach. She paused, holding the doorframe, her face a mixture of sorrow and resolve. I hope you find yourself again, she said softly. And I hope you can forgive what we couldn't fix together. I need to go, and I need to let us both breathe. I wanted to argue, to plead, to say anything that could change the outcome, but my throat tightened. I understand, I whispered, my voice barely audible. I hope you're happy truly. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Final and irreversible. I sank back against the couch, feeling the hollowness of the room swallow me. The hoodie's memory lingered, a constant, painful emblem of what love could have been and what it had become. For the first time in years, I realized that some choices couldn't be undone, and some people couldn't be made to stay. Love alone wasn't always enough. Sometimes, heartbreak was the only teacher. And as I sat in the silence, the bitter truth settled in my chest. Letting go was not failure. It was survival.